Do you still have a ton of questions about the new Lightning Lane service at Walt Disney World? Well, unfortunately, I am not there right now to answer it because I am here at Tokyo Disney Resort. We're going to be doing a ton of videos at Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea, and from the different resort hotels here, so stay tuned to the channel for that. But since we're not there in Orlando and we're not able to make new videos, I thought I would share with all of you something special from over at our Patreon community. At patreon.com/earscouts, we do all kinds of exclusive bonus content, and one of the things that we did recently was a series of live Q&As with our members about the new Lightning Lane multipass service. So if you still got questions, we may very well have the answer. I hope you enjoy this sneak peek into our Patreon community, and if you'd like to join us, once again, just head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. We're going to continue enjoying ourselves here at Tokyo Disney Resort, and we're going to see you as soon as we get back to Orlando. Until then, don't forget to think happy thoughts, everybody. Now enjoy this exclusive Q&A. Hi-ho, everybody, and welcome to our final live Q&A for the new Lightning Lane multipass system. Thank you all so much for joining us for this, and a huge thank you to everyone who sent in questions in advance, because I gotta say, some of those questions were things I hadn't even thought about, and I went in and it prompted me to learn new things about this service to share with all of you. So thank you all so much for such great questions. Today, we're actually going to skip the introduction to the service part because we now have a video that's going to help you with that. So there is the new multipass tips and tricks video that went up on the main YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that yet, that's definitely something you're going to want to check out because we really get into a lot of detail, and the things that I covered there, I'm not going to cover in this video because it's just kind of repetitive, and you'll be able to see it there, and you'll probably be able to see it in more detail there. So go check that out. And the last little caveat I want to throw out there is I am on my final day of COVID recovery, well, quarantine, and I definitely still have some COVID brain. So with that all said, I'm going to jump right into the questions. And at the end, if you have any questions that you don't hear here, we'll have a live Q&A session. You can also just post your questions as we go along in the chat, and that way Eric will read those out at the end as well. Let's jump in with our first question. This is from Janine J, and I love this question because it prompted me to find out the answer. Once you make your original multipass selections, are you able to change all 3 selections to a different park before that park day? And if so, how does that work? Well, I'm actually going to show you how that works. You're going to start by going into the My Disney Experience app, and you're going to tap on that Lightning Lane passes in the upper right. You're going to see all of your Lightning Lane passes. You're not going to click on one of them though. What you're going to do is up there at the top, you see where it says Lightning Lanes booked for whatever the park is. You're actually going to tap there. And when you do that, it's going to bring up this little menu, and you can choose Modify Lightning Lane Multipass. So once you click on that, it's going to let you choose who you want to modify for in case you're not modifying for everyone. And then it's going to bring up this date panel. You can change the date that your multipass is for. You can also, once you choose your date, select a different park that your multipass is for. Now it's important to note, once you do this, all of your existing multipass reservations are going to be poof, gone away. So only do this if you're really sure you want to get rid of all those and start booking at a different park. But this is a great change, and I'm really pumped about it because it does give folks a lot of flexibility. This has happened to me before where I've needed to just change my plans. Maybe, well, this week is a perfect example. I got COVID. I had to change my plans. And so it does make it great for you to not even have to, you don't have to worry about calling guest relations. You can just go into the app and move everything yourself. Do note on there that it's going to show you the price difference. So if it's a more expensive day or a more expensive park, then you'll just pay the difference for that. But it's a really great new feature that I'm excited they've added. Got another great question from Janine J, which is, can you modify your single pass once selected and purchased? I know that with individual attraction lightning lanes, you couldn't. I have some amazing news. This prompted me. I hadn't purchased a single pass yet, but this morning when I got this question, I was like, I should find this out. So I booked a single pass lightning lane, and sure enough, look at what happens. So you're going to start by doing the exact same thing. You're going to go to lightning lane passes like we did before. And this time you're going to scroll down to the bottom, and that's where you're going to see your single pass lightning lanes. Just tap on one of them, and then the menu pops up like before, and you're going to choose modify selection. And once you do this, it's actually gonna let you either choose a new time. It looks kind of like the modify genie feature there. So you tap on that to choose a new time, or look up there, you can actually choose a different date. You can move the date. Another thing that I wanted you to note, scroll down, you can change it to a different attraction, and it'll just show you what the price difference is. I should note, I did try this. If you try to move it to something that's cheaper, it doesn't give you a refund for the difference, but it does let you upgrade to a more expensive attraction if you'd wish. And you notice those little park icons there. You can even tap on a different park and change it, to a different park all right in there. So this is a really handy tool, and I think this is a great update to Single Pass. Next question, for split stays at multiple qualifying resorts, can you book on the check-in day of your first stay? What if you have a dated ticket that starts after that first hotel stay? So the person asking this question, I think, had kind of a unique situation, but it probably happens more than we would realize. She has one day where it's like her arrival day, where she just did, I think it was like a value resort. And then, she has her regular resort that she does the full stay at that starts the next day. But she also has a dated park ticket that is attached to that second resort stay. So its first date is the day after that first hotel stay. I did some research on this, and what it seems is that you may have to call Disney to work this out. In some cases, people said it just worked like it should. On their first day of eligibility for that first hotel stay, it opened up. For other people, they said it didn't, but they called Disney, and Disney kind of fixed it for them so that they could. It does seem, though, that the official rule, at least for right now, is that you should be able to book on your first hotel day, even with a split stay. And if you find that that's not the case, at least for now, Disney seems to be willing to kind of fix that for you. I will say, I know from history that this was also a thing with advanced dining reservations, where Disney would fix it for you for a little while because advanced dining reservations don't honor the split stay the way that Lightning Lanes do now. And pretty quickly, I think it was just Disney got overwhelmed with needing to get dining reservations for people. They kind of put the kibosh on that. So this is something that could change, but my hope is that the system is just going to work eventually, and you wouldn't even need to bother contacting Disney. But that's the answer we have on that so far. Next, do you recommend buying and setting up times for the single pass lightning lanes at the same time as the 3 multi-pass rides? Or is it better to set up the 3 multi-pass choices first and then go back in to purchase and schedule the single pass lightning lanes? The great thing about this new system, you don't purchase it until everything is lined up. And while you're lining everything up, it's already secured for you. You'll see a little timer at the top of the screen that shows you, it starts, I think, at 5 minutes. It shows you a countdown of how much time you have to rearrange things and get them the way that you want. So there's really no reason to do it in separate transactions unless you just want to. It's definitely easy to go in and make those changes during that 5-minute window, and you're not going to miss out by including some single passes with your multi-passes. Next, what happens when you fail to use a multi-pass lightning lane or modify it to a later time before it expires? So we actually did this in the video. We had Dumbo booked and we just wanted to see what would happen when it expired. And interestingly, it wouldn't let me cancel it after it expired. Now, there was a cancel button there, which tells me I should have been able to cancel it. But when I tapped on it, nothing happened. So I'm guessing that was a glitch that's going to get fixed. However, what was interesting, it did immediately let me book another lightning lane. So it wasn't blocking me. And it just stayed there. It was just there all day long until Eric finally went and said, well, let's just see what happens if we tap in at it. It did glow blue, but the cast members said it was fine, that Eric could go ahead and ride. She saw that he had the lightning lane for earlier in the day. I think your mileage on that is going to vary depending on what the ride is. I think if it had been Tiana and he'd been 7 hours late, it probably would have been, sorry, we can't help you. But because it was Dumbo, they probably didn't care all that much. But yeah, that's basically what happens, is it just kind of sticks around, and you could certainly try to use it. An important thing to note though is it will not let you rebook it. So if it's still sticking around in your app, if you want to rebook it for an official time, you'd probably, if it doesn't let you cancel it, which hopefully that's going to be fixed and you can just cancel it. But if it doesn't, you might have to get a cast member to help you clear it out so you could rebook it. This is an updated answer to a question we had before, where we just have a little more information. So if part of your group will begin their qualifying resort stay 1 or more days before the rest of the group, is there a way to merge or otherwise connect the pre-booked rides that were done early? Or would we have to wait and pre-book for our shared days once everyone is eligible? So there's no way to add someone to your pre-books after the fact. However, you could certainly try to get those people's pre-books to line up to some degree with what you have. You could also link everyone together. You could cancel everyone's existing pre-books and then choose to book, something together. And that's actually the solution I would recommend, because you should take advantage of your full window. Get those tough to grab rides and just cross your fingers. Maybe just maybe your friends are going to luck out and be able to get some overlapping time with you. Or, your friends may say, hey, I don't want you to miss out on that attraction. You go ahead and do that, and we'll line up for these other things and try to get that one on our own. But I think to give yourself the most flexibility, because it never hurts, you can always cancel it. Go ahead and do book as soon as you're able, and you'll have to worry about merging everyone together later. So Beth S asks, if a member of your party decides to get multipass on the day of your visit, will it be hard to include them in your lightning lane? So the concern here is if they weren't sure they wanted to use multipass, maybe they decide on the day of, you know what, this looks great, I want to do this, but everyone else already has those pre-books in place. How hard is it to integrate them? Really, it's only going to affect probably your tier 1 pre-book, really. If on the day of you want to add them in, you're all going to be in the same boat, really, after that first pre-book. So I would say there's no harm in adding them on the day of, just unfortunately, whatever that big tier 1 ride is, and potentially, if you have one of those bigger tier 2s, we definitely found Haunted Mansion was tough to book as a tier 2. So there's some tier 2s that'll also be tricky, but it's mainly going to be that tier 1 that you have a problem probably overlapping them on. But so to answer the question, I don't think it's going to be hard at all. And I think other than that one initial attraction, maybe 2, you're going to have the same experience. Updated answer, how do you think the new system will affect park hopping strategy? So we talked a little bit about this in the video, but I wanted to keep this question in here so that I could expand on it a little bit more. I think the biggest difference with park hopping is before, what would have been a good strategy would have been to go ahead and grab your most difficult to book ride in your second park, because then you're going to rope drop that first park. You're going to have shorter waits. You can kind of enjoy that park without needing to use lightning lanes and just focus entirely on park 2. The problem with that strategy now is you can't book any other tier ones in Park 2 until you've tapped in at your first attraction. So for this reason, it kind of is going to really hamstring you from being able to do what you're probably going to want to do in that second park if you start booking there. You're going to have to make your initial selections. I mean, I say have to. Everything's a trade-off. It's probably going to be most recommended that you make your initial selections at Park 1 so that you can immediately tap in and unlock yourself. And then at that moment, you could modify your other tier 2s for that Park 1 or whatever you have left. You could modify that into tier 1s for Park 2. So at that moment that you tap in, you actually have the ability to put all 3 of your lightning lanes in the second park and all be tier 1s if you can find them. So that's the benefit of booking in your first park. I'm going to throw in one caveat because I've been thinking a lot about this. I do think that there are a couple of scenarios where you might want to avoid that advice. The biggest one right now is Tiana. If Tiana is the most important attraction to you and Magic Kingdom is your second park, you're going to need to probably pre-book Tiana, and you're just going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to be able to aim for those other tier 1s in Magic Kingdom until you get there, until you get to Magic Kingdom and tap into one of them. But I think that that's probably a good trade-off if Tiana matters most to you, because let me tell you, that attraction is disappearing in seconds, and it from what I've been hearing, we had it pre-booked, so we weren't trying to fight for it later in the day. But I certainly didn't see it popping up much when I was looking. So I think probably Tiana would be the exception. If it's a crazy busy day, Remy might be too, if that's a must-do for you, or Slinky over at Hollywood Studios. But I think for right now, Tiana is going to be the biggest one to worry about that with. Next up, it seems that single pass lightning lanes are selling out before the day even arrives. Do you think this is a temporary situation, or will this likely be a problem going forward? Obviously hard to say, but what we have noticed is that Disney is adding more lightning lanes, including, I think, single pass I've seen. It's hard to say what Disney's added and what people have just canceled or moved, but we've seen things come back into the pot on the day of, right at 7 a.m. We haven't seen things yet, at least that I've seen, coming back into the pot on the 3-day mark, which was kind of what I was hoping we were going to see, because as we mentioned before, folks who are staying at a Disney resort can book 7 days out, but folks who are not staying at a resort or annual pass holders who don't have a hotel stay, they have to book at the 3-day mark. And I was hoping Disney was going to drop a bunch of lightning lanes at that 3-day mark, because that would free it up for people to be able to pre-book them. As of right now, I haven't seen evidence of that happening. However, on the day of, we're definitely seeing it happen. Tiana freed up. There were a lot of things that freed up on the day of, right at 7 a.m. So I think the other thing to keep in mind is what we showed you earlier. People can cancel, people can modify, people can shift things around. And so what I would recommend doing, if you're booking and you're not finding what you want, you know the way some people like just pull out their phone when they're stuck somewhere and they're bored, they're sitting at the DMV and they just play Candy Crush or something like that? I really think what you're probably going to want to do, treat My Disney Experience like your Candy Crush for those days before you're going to go. And just during you got downtime, you're just kind of looking for something to waste a little time. Look in there, see if you can improve your existing lightning lanes, see if you can find that missing lightning lane that you're trying to grab before. I already do that with dining reservations. I do that all the time, especially when it gets close to like the holidays and I want a certain dining reservation. I just pull out my phone when I'm stuck somewhere with nothing better to do, and you'd be shocked how often things just pop up out of nowhere and you can grab them, and it's a pretty cool win when you're able to do that. So That's the best advice I can give you on that question from what we know right now. This is another updated answer. To confirm, when you book your 3 initial lightning lanes, they cannot be overlapping in time, and can you play the Disney Genie slots to attempt to better your time for these 3 initial picks? So the overlapping thing we talk about in the video, but I wanted to get into more detail here because it's kind of confusing and I'm not sure how much of it is just the app being finicky and how much of it is official policy. When we were pre-booking initially, so before we've purchased the service, it let us overlap to some degree. It would let us overlap to about 20-ish minutes seemed to be the most, at least I was able to get it to overlap when I was playing with it. Obviously, you have a limited amount of time. You've got that 5-minute clock is counting down, and you're also going to see as you're doing it that times are going to start disappearing because obviously lots of other people are doing it. So you don't have as much time to play there without, starting to see your time start to dry up, especially if you're closer to your park day. But I was able to get some overlap. Once I purchased and then I went back in to modify my selections, it would not allow me to overlap at all. In fact, in some cases, I found it wouldn't let me grab a lightning lane unless there was even a little bit of a buffer. Like, for example, I saw Remy at 9:05, and I mentioned this in the video, and I kept seeing it when I would refresh. There was Remy at 9:05, and when I would try to grab it, it would just default to a much later time, and I'd go back, and that 9:05 was still there. And what I figured out was I had to kind of clear a little bit of a wide margin from that 9:05 time. I think I moved my attraction I had early to way later, and then the 9:05 popped right in. So if you're seeing a time that you really want, just kind of give yourself a little bit of a wide margin to move that attraction in during that window. Now it gets a little bit more complicated because once you arrive on the day of your visit, and I'm not sure when this happened, I'm not sure if it happened at 7 or if it happened when the park opened, but at some point it didn't care on the day of our visit. We could overlap return times entirely, and it was fine. So it does seem, though, that there are 3 distinct periods. There's the pre-booking window, where you can do some overlap. There's the after you've pre-booked, but before your park day, where you don't get any overlap. And then your park day, where it's just kind of, no holds barred, whatever it is you want to do. It seems it lets you do it. Another updated answer. Can we still purchase multipass anytime after midnight so we are ready to start making ride selections at 7 a.m. without taking the extra time to initiate the purchase? So you don't need to do this anymore, thankfully, because it does hold everything for you for 5 minutes. We did try setting up the free Genie service before and to see if that helped us at all. You'll notice when Eric was purchasing, you'll see stars by some of the attractions that he'd set up with his free Genie, but during that pre-booking window, it didn't bring them to the top of the view or anything. So there's really nothing you can do that's gonna help you get an edge, other than just being ready a little bit before 7 and getting through as many steps as you can a little bit before 7. Another updated answer. For off-site guests with multi-day tickets, can they book all of their park days when they first become eligible, or do they have to wait 3 days out for each day of their visit? What about annual pass holders? And what if the party has a mix of both? So it seems pretty clear from what I've heard. I've chatted with people on Facebook about this. I actually asked, I was like, hey, does anyone have multi-day tickets? What's going on with your ticket? Are you able to book for the whole visit? And what I heard was yes. And they didn't have any problem. On their first day of eligibility, they were able to book beyond what would have been their 3-day window if they were only going to be allowed to book 3 days out. Annual pass holders, nope, you're going to have 3 days out. It's always going to be 3 days out unless you have a qualifying resort stay. So we were able to book for our yacht club stay next week without any problem. I did find that I already had park pass reservations, so it's hard to say if I needed the park pass reservations. However, one of the days was a good to go day. So I didn't have a park pass, and it did let me book for the good to go day, even though I didn't have a park pass. That's what we know so far. It does seem like multi-pass, multi-day dated tickets are allowed to book for the duration of the ticket. I do know that there are some other ticket types that are not dated. For those ticket types, I'll be honest, I think you're going to have to make a park pass reservation, and I think it's going to have to be 3 days out. And it's probably, I don't think it's going to recognize multiple days of that ticket type, but I don't know. And I haven't encountered anyone using one of those yet. So if you find the answer to that, or you meet someone who does, let us know. Another Janine J question. I see that you pick your first 3 rides and they assign you times, but also give you the option to modify before finalizing. Would you recommend just checking out with what you get and then go back and modify later, or try to modify in that 5 minute window before purchasing? I would say this depends on how many other days you need to book for. Like, are you trying to get each one done quickly so you can move on to your next park day and book them all out? In that case, the benefits of playing with it in the window, versus playing with it later are probably a little bit more limited, especially because you're getting the rides, right? Assuming all the rides you wanted, you got. I think I would worry about time later if I had other days that I needed to book out for. If you're just booking for that day, or you feel like you've got time to play with it, the benefit of doing it during that pre-booking window before you purchase, as we said before, is it's going to give you a little bit more flexibility, it seems, with overlapping things that you won't have after. So I think those are the things you need to weigh when you decide which approach you want to take.
I would like to add, to that question,
Mhm.
that the very first day that we try it, I tried to modify my Tiana's Value Adventure time for an earlier time, and I encountered at the Gremlin, and it was telling me like, "Oops, something happened,"
Mm.
and it made me go back. So I don't know if that's going to be like a thing that is going to constantly happen, or it was just something that happened for being the very first day. But uh, just keep that in mind that it that can happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, gremlins are definitely still a thing. But I will say this though. I do want to, on the topic of gremlins, I was shocked at how stable the system was on that first day. Because if you think about it, everybody who had stays starting within the next 7 days, plus everybody who had a park ticket for that day, plus everybody who could book for 3 days out, all of them were trying to grab lightning lanes at the exact same moment at 7 a.m. When Disney said they were going to do that, I was like, are you guys crazy? You're going to melt your servers. And it didn't. I mean, hats off. We had some gremlins, right? Eric had a couple gremlins. But you had gremlins all the time with Genie, and it wasn't this brand new system. So I feel like on the whole, the gremlins, they're still there, but they seem, at least early on, to be pretty well isolated. And did you see anything else after that 7 a.m. one, Eric?
Yep, it was just like on the first one,
Yeah.
like the very first time, and then after that, like it run smoothly.
And that's the way it was with Genie too. 7 a.m. is crazy, and I think, the servers are just bogged down and stuff's going to happen. But I'm glad Eric mentioned that, because that is another thing you do need to think about, is when if you've got something you really like and you're happy with it, you might want to just quickly grab it before you run the risk of giving yourself a Genie gremlin and not getting to keep it.
But I feel like either way, we still have a good time, and we were able just to get like Tiana's back. So
Yeah.
just to for everyone just to feel relaxed about it. Like we were able to get it back.
It was very volatile in that first uh, hour. Things were coming and going and popping in and out really frequently. I One thing I will just add to this that's not directly related to this question, but uh, a lot of people were excited by the idea that you weren't going to have to get up on the day of your vacation. That's going to be true if you're happy with everything you've got. If you didn't get something that you wanted, like in our case, we didn't have Tiana when we wanted it, you're probably gonna, your best bet is still gonna be 7 a.m. on the day of your visit, logging in and trying to grab it. But all right, let's move on to the next question. This is another updated answer. Should we start by pre-booking the last day of our vacation and then backtracking to the first day in order to get the best selections? I can tell you now from playing with this, that is not the right strategy. I think you definitely want to start with your soonest park day, and the only exception to that would be if you really wanted Tiana's and Magic Kingdom wasn't your first park day, you might want to start with Magic Kingdom, your first Magic Kingdom day, and then go back to your first park day, because it was shocking to me. For my visit, I was able to book up to 8 days out. So on my eighth day, which was the second day of my hotel stay, I could really that afternoon, that evening, I could move everything around. There were just tons of times for every, including Remy. I mean, I could move Remy around all day. So I don't think that you need to worry so much about your far out days. You want to worry more about your earliest days. All right. Well, that was all the pre-sent in questions that we had. I hope we didn't miss anyone's questions. If we did, let us know in the chat, or you can ask your question live. But let's go ahead really quickly and let's go through any of the questions we had in the chat.
From Heidi, her first question is, did you do the slots for him? Well, for me, um, log in as him or through your app with him connected?
Yeah. So I did everything with our linked accounts. We never logged in as each other. So everything works just fine as long as you're linked together and you're able to manage each other. You're able to. So if you've been able to do it with Genie, I think is probably the simplest way to put it. If you're able to do dining reservations for each other and you're able to book Genie passes for each other, then you're going to be fine. You won't need to log in as the other person.
Had you bought Lightning Lane for yourself as well?
So I was wondering if you had also been on a parallel lightning lane so that you could be modifying for Eric at the time, or if you could just do it completely independently off-site, because the corollary to that is I have family members in the UK who can't make their reservations ahead of time. If I have them all hooked up on my Disney experience, can I pre-book their lightning lanes just straight through my app, or do I need to be logged in as them?
I believe you can do it all for them and you don't need to be part of their party. The the exception to that is if you want to set up the free Genie service. It would not let me set up free Genie for the day without putting myself in the group with Eric. But that was free, like that wasn't an issue. But it did let me purchase just for Eric, I think. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I do have, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people have been asking about the international issues. If you haven't heard, if you're an international guest, it's apparently due to legal issues around the app. You're not allowed to purchase the Lightning Lane service until you're on U.S. soil. And the workaround for that is you could do something like this, where your friend is going to kindly book things for you and make that purchase. That's the part that's difficult. It's making the purchase. Once you've purchased, folks in international destinations, they can modify, they can change their lightning lanes, they can do everything from that point. It's just the purchasing part. Another option you have if you are a DVC member. DVC has said, at least for now, that they're willing for their international guests, if you call your DVC rep, they will assist you in purchasing. They're not going to book anything for you, but you're able to book it yourself. So DVC members have an official kind of Disney solution for right now. For everyone else, I can't endorse this because I'm not sure, the legalities of it. But I have heard in multiple places that if you have a VPN, and it is a VPN that also includes what's called GPS spoofing, so it's basically it's sharing your GPS information like you would from your device as a different location in the U.S. It seems to work. So that's another potential solution that I can't endorse, but I've just heard over the through the grapevine that that's working for people.
So sorry, just in follow up. So if you purchase the ability to do the lightning link, so if you purchase Genie Plus,
Mm-hmm.
if I run through and purchase Genie Plus for their 7 days or 10 days,
Mm-hmm.
then just let it auto populate whatever quickly, then I can just hand it over and they can keep modifying.
Yes. And I would recommend, I mean, just you might want to talk to them beforehand and say, hey, what would you like me to try to grab in those initial selections? Because it might be harder for them later to get them. But yes, you can just make any initial selections that you want, and they will be able to change it after it's all done.
Oh, you've made lots of people happy. Thank you so much. And thanks for everything you do.
Absolutely.
Both of you.
Thank you so much for being part of our Patreon family and for joining us today.
Also, like Heidi asked, like any information regarding booking when you have a restaurant and activities pre-booked. Do you think the app streamlines the lightning lane time slots as well?
So you can see your dining reservations with your Lightning Lane reservations. It did seem to want to avoid overlapping them when it was pre-selecting. I did not try yet to overlap during, well, I actually haven't tried to overlap during any period. I just let it because I didn't want to overlap. I wanted to have time to do my dining reservation, but that might be something we'll play with in a future video to see what degree of overlapping it allows.
The last one, she's interested in any possible tips for someone not planning on going to the parks till afternoon. She heard your tips on your video, and she's thinking it's still useful to essentially have those three stack and then slots.
What I would say, the most important thing if you're not able to get there until the afternoon, number one, make sure you try your best to get the most popular attractions that are your must-dos booked. So Magic Kingdom, that's going to be Tiana. If that's a must-do for you, grab that. At Epcot, try to grab Remy. At Hollywood Studios, try to grab Slinky. It doesn't matter as much at Animal Kingdom. The other thing I would say that's really important, you're going to want those lightning lanes as best as you can to be front loaded to as soon as you're going to arrive, because until you can start tapping in at those, you're not unlocked. You're not able to keep booking. So I would suggest, honestly, try to start with one of your tier twos. That way you can just unlock and immediately turn that tier two into a tier one, and then have two tier ones in the bag already. But I'm going to be honest, we did really well in our first day in the video, but it was really due to playing the slots non-stop. It was not a realistic. I don't think if I had been in the park, I wouldn't have wanted to play the slots as much as I did. There were certain times where I got lucky, like Jungle Cruise. I got Jungle Cruise like that. I never saw it again for a long time, so it was really just luck. But I think you're going to have those moments of luck. So you are going to be able to get some attractions, some of those tier ones, even the ones that seem impossible, just because you're going to get lucky here and there. But if you want to try to do it like you did before, where you're going to do everything in the afternoon, it's doable, but it's going to involve just basically having someone in your group with their nose buried in their phone the whole time, because it's tough at the end of the day. I'm looking forward to having more park days where we really play the slots properly from the beginning of the day, and I think once we're able to do that, we're going to find strategies that make it so you're not going to be buried in your phone. But if you're coming late in the day and you want to try to do as much as possible, it's going to involve a lot of time on the phone.
Well, now going from the questions on the chat, I'm going to start with Justin. I have a question. When we go to Disney, we're going with a military ticket, which requires park reservations, and we're doing a split stay all on property. Would that cause problems for my days in the second half of my stay?
So someone responded who was using a military ticket when I asked, and they were able to book for the entire duration of their ticket for all of their days on their first day of eligibility. So as soon as you're eligible with that first hotel stay, you should be free to book the entire duration of your military ticket.
If you're booking for multiple days, are you paying for each day at a time? Then you move to your next day, or is it a grand total for all of your 4 days, all of your days?
Yeah, you unfortunately do have to do it one day at a time. There wasn't a way. And once I used the system, I got why. It almost seemed like they were starting out making it possible for you to book multiple days at once. There seems like there's mechanisms in there to let you do it. But I think what they figured out pretty quickly was those timers, right? You've got a limited amount of time, and if people are booking multiple days, they might not even realize that they've lost some things early in the process because their timer ran out before they purchased. So I think that's the reason why they didn't end up allowing you to book multiple days. And who knows, maybe they'll bring that back in, or allow you to do that, and it'll just be a grand total timer, and you'll just know. But I think the timer is the reason why they don't let it.
Julie, she thinks like you accidentally skip the slide on grace period for using the lightning lane.
Tell me if this was, I think the question was, do you still have your 5-minute grace period before you tap in and your 20-minute grace period after? So Eric was able to tap in 5 minutes early. He asked the cast member, would he still be allowed to do the 20 minutes after? The cast member said no, that you don't have any grace period after. I'm just gonna put a little asterisk there, which is there were many cast members who didn't know you had the grace period with Genie either. I mean, I encountered cast members who said, "Oh, you can't, tap in," but it would glow green, and so I think it's something we need to test out. 5 minutes ahead, that's a definite yes. The 20 minutes after, I'm going to play with it. I might even try it actually on Sunday. I might just go right at like the 19-minute mark and tap in and see, does it glow green or does it glow blue? Because if it glows blue, that means it's up to the discretion of the cast member. They're going to look at their screen. They're going to say, oh, you're not in your window, and make a decision. But in my experience, if it glows green, no one even looks at the screen. You just go. So I'm curious to see about the 20 minutes, if it's still intact or not.
Okay, from Marty K. If you're an annual pass holder and have a split stay, can you book for whole stay at 7 days out from first stay, or do you have to do it again at the second stay?
As I understand it, it should allow you to do for the entire stay, if the entire split stay. That's probably one of those scenarios where people have had to maybe call Disney to get it connected together, to get it fixed. But as of right now, my understanding is you should be allowed to, and the question is whether the system is going to let you. The good news is, though, once you're talking about, it's going to be that second stay, right? That's going to be the problem. once you're that far out, I mean, even if you have to call Disney and get them to sort it for you, there's still, it seems, going to be tons of availability for that second stay. So I wouldn't say it's something you need to sweat, even if it doesn't automatically work like it should.
From Katie, can me and my son log in separately and book at the same time on our first eligible morning? So one is doing the Magic Kingdom day and one is doing our first park day,
Yep.
or will it cancel each other out?
Nope. That's exactly what we did. So Eric booked day one. Eric was booking the Magic Kingdom day. I was booking our hotel stay day for next week, and we didn't have any issue.
Now from Carissa, if your entire party is not getting to the park for the first lightning lane section, because some of my party sleeps in, could we take their magic bands to clear their first selection so that we can then book an additional selection for all?
So this is a little known thing that probably should be more known. Using someone else's magic band to tap into an attraction, no matter the reason, is actually a bannable, ejected from the park offense. It's a big deal. So don't do that. Um, I I think I'm gonna try during next week's visit. I'm gonna ask the cast member, because I'll be able to be in the park before Eric will, for example, that day, and I'll have us both booked, and I'm gonna say, hey, the rest of my group isn't gonna ride this attraction. What can we do to unlock them? And that, even if your party is there, that's going to be a thing. I mean, if you think about it, not everyone is going to want to ride whatever the first ride of the day is. If the first ride of the day, even if it's a tier two, like teacups, there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not spinning around this first thing in the morning. So there's going to have to be a mechanism to allow the whole party to start booking for the next attraction that's going to be a tier one when certain members of that party aren't going to ride the teacups. And I think right now the cast members are having everyone tap in at the attraction, but think about it. There are some attractions where you have to tap in twice, and the second tap in point is, think about Space Mountain, how far you have to go to get to that second tap in point. It's just not practical that that's going to be the solution, I think, the final solution. So I think this is going to be a TBD, and I'm going to try it next week, and we'll let you know in a video or otherwise how that pans out. But I can tell you right now, there's also going to be people, I think, who are going to want to. I'm the early bird. I'm going to go into the park. I'm going to unlock everyone, and everyone else is going to sleep in. Historically, Disney hasn't allowed that. So for example, with certain virtual queues where you have to physically enter the park in order to be able to qualify for the virtual queue, every member has to enter the park, every member of the party. It's not just one. So we'll see. But I think maybe there'll be a solution that works.
Hi guys, it's Janine. Sorry, I'm not on camera, but so my question is, I've been seeing through like some posts today that people are getting like the like multi like experience that they're canceling out their Tianas for like Monday, for example, and they're already getting like a multi experience pass. And so they've called Disney and they're saying because they're anticipating like bad weather. So I just wasn't sure if you've seen any of that or heard any of that. I thought, but what's strange is it's saying still it can't be used until like their time window. But when people called, they said they'd be able to use it all day, but they're anticipating, bad weather, which again, I think is kind of crazy on a Friday for Monday. But I've seen multiple people post that they've gotten alerts that they have like a multi-pass experience like days before.
That is news to me, and that is, as someone who lives in Orlando, it's also kind of shocking to me because I gotta say, there are days where it says 100% thunder showers from like morning till night, and then you get there and it's sunny all day long. So That's surprising to me that Disney's doing that, but interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard. So I unfortunately I can't answer to that. It's cool. It's interesting though. I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, that was some of the feedback that people said exactly like, how could you get rains all the time? How could they do that? Some people had a hypothesis that they were just, are they trying to sprinkle in more like availability by doing that? But just something that I guess to keep an eye out. But thank you for all answering all my questions. I know I had quite a few. We are booking a week today. So I'm trying to absorb as much as I can in the first 10 days to be as prepared as possible.
Good luck. I hope this trip is a roaring success. Craig,
Great,
you
thank
raised
you.
your hand in the middle of the. Do you have something to add to that? The multi experience the experience.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I've seen the same thing that Janine is saying on several different Facebook groups where they just have these multiple return time, whatever. I can't remember what they're called right now. I have COVID brain 24/7. So, yeah, but yeah, I've seen that several times. No one seems to know what's going on, why they're getting them days in advance. But
Interesting. I almost wonder. Did does it? Well, we'll look into it and find out. But I almost wonder if they're having a planned. They're going to be doing work on the attraction, maybe. I mean, and maybe because that they would know, if they were going to take it down to do some work on something, and maybe they're just blaming weather. I don't know. That's really interesting.
From Julie,
Mhm.
I have a large group of 15 people. With the old Disney Genie Plus system, there was a max number of people for booking lightning lanes. Have you found out the max number of people in a party for this new system?
So I haven't since it started. I do remember one of the cast members when before it started, when I was asking a bunch of questions to, one of them did casually say, up to your limit of 12. I don't know if that's because they just assumed the limit would remain 12, or if it's because that's official. But we'll try to find out. I don't know though because I haven't used it yet at that capacity.
From Katrina, do you still want to pick top picks to the pin to the top? To pin to the top? If so, how many should you pick? I know before you will pick 1 or 2 picks with Genie Plus.
So yes, and it's interesting. You'll see it in the video that we did that. What's really weird is that on the tipboard screen, it doesn't pin them anymore, which is where it pinned them before. It just puts a little star by them. But when you're in the modify screen, when you're actively modifying a lightning lane, then they are pinned to the top. And that's where it matters most. But it did seem weird that they took away the pinning from the tip board just because, well, that was the default behavior. It seems like they had to go out of their way to take it away there, but it seems they did, for at least for right now. Maybe it's a glitch and it's going to come back. But as far as how many I recommend doing, I would say 2 is most effective because you can usually see them all in your view. You don't have to scroll at all. I was able, every now and then, you'll see it in the video. I think I did it with Pooh. I had 3 sometimes. When I had 4, I failed every time. When I got down to the 4th one and tried to tap in, complete failure. So I would say 2 is ideal and 3 is probably max.
That was the end of the questions on the chat.
I just want to thank all of you so much for not just for being here, but for also just being a part of our Patreon family and supporting what we do and making it possible for us to do stuff like this and share this stuff with you. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And now does anyone have any questions that we haven't covered?
Hello, it's not a question. It's just yesterday in the group chat, I said that the rock and roller roller coaster, it was tier 2, but
Yeah.
apparently it was only for the 25th and 26th. It was tier 2, but when I checked for the 27, it was again tier 1. Apparently they're still testing everything. Nothing is secure, apparently.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, actually, the funny thing is we have been also seeing off and on that you can still book for the characters. You can still book for Festival of Fantasy Parade in the Magic Kingdom. Yeah, which is technically not included with this multipass. So it seems that they are still like figuring things out on the app. That will be my guess. Why it's like going back and forth from tiers.
I do have some good info about the characters specifically. I saw a Plan Disney response that was a question about that, and Plan Disney, they're pretty official. I mean, they're not going to say anything on Plan Disney that they haven't heard from Disney itself. And they said that they spoke to cast members involved with the project, and characters are not available at this time. But there was a strong suggestion that they're probably coming back. I think it's more, I'm guessing it's logistics. They're just trying to maybe figure something out in terms of supply and demand, or maybe it could also be that they're concerned about people booking so far out and they don't have characters, character locations and times planned out that far. I'm not sure what the issue is, but it seems, according to Plan Disney, that that's probably coming back. And that would also jive with what Eric said, that, it's still in there. It's just, supposed to be hidden, I think. Any other questions? Well, seeing no additional questions, I just, again, thank you guys so much for joining us here. And I hope that you all found this helpful in the other Q&As that we've done. And I think we really enjoyed doing them. So if there's ever a big, huge change like this coming to Disney World that we need to do some Q&As on, I think this is something we'll probably bring back. If you enjoy, doing things like this, we actually have, as part of our Ear Scouts tier, a monthly jamboree that is included, and that is a lot more just kind of freewheeling and fun. We chat about whatever anybody wants to chat about. It's also a great chance if you want to ask very specific questions about your trip. We can help answer those. We always do that at the end of every jamboree. So if you'd like to join us at a jamboree, we'd invite you to consider a month at the Ear Scouts tier, and we'd love to see you there. But wherever we see you, thank you again so much for supporting what we do. And until we see you again, don't forget to keep thinking happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you real soon.